We continue.
Go on with our working day, colleagues, and the next briefing topic is distribution of royalties and paying honorarium to people. And we have speakers Dmitro Kostyuk, Acting General Director of the Ukrainian Agency of Copyright and Related Rights, and Head of the Public Council at the State Intellectual Properties Service, Dmitro Huzi, and also Alexandra Koltsova from Kryhitka Rock Group.
Де камера знімає? Там? Так, ну що, починаємо, да? Доброго дня.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Thank you. Our topic is connected to copyright. This is, not directly linked to elections, but this topic has and will be important for the society. The term of authority of the Public Council and the State Agency for Copyright is finishing soon, and we've been engaged in fighting the intransparent activity in the sphere of royalties, and we finally have some results that we would like to share with you. The so-called collective management is the scheme that has to be responsible for collection and distribution of royalties for performers in our country. However, it doesn't work, and it collects too small amount of money, and those 50 to 60 million hryvnia that as if are collected in our country are being distributed in the way that authors and owners of copyright cannot control this, and they cannot understand why such money is being collected and why the payments are the way they are. Irresponsibility of state management is to blame. I mean the previous one, the preceding one. Only in 2014 and 15 we were able to get rid of the management that was programmed to act at the State Agency for Copyright. And the public has raised the issue of lustration of the management in 2014. The managers were dismissed. And when the new managers came last year, the situation started to gradually change. There were several draft laws that have to regulate the situation. The Ministry of Economy joined in the work. There's a department headed by Elena Minish responsible for intellectual property, and at last the situation is now in the reform in professional vein, but these political and theoretical foundations, how to change this situation, and expert opinion, they do not possess a dynamic if they are not based on practice. The biggest organization that we inherited from the Soviet Union is the so-called Authors Organization, the Ukrainian Agency on Copyright, which is the biggest in Ukraine. Organization of collective management that has to be taken care of the interests of the authors. It has several dozen million money of royalty that was embezzled in an elementary way. This was the reason for the inability to tolerate this situation any longer. And the professional public have been demanding changes for long, and at last week, the new head of the State agency was appointed, and this speaker, Dmitro Kostyuk, is here. We have the action plan from the public and professional circles, the plan for reform in the state copyright agency and the system of collective management in general, so that at last the collection of royalty in Ukraine becomes transparent and efficient, and this system has to gain trust from the users, television channels, internet payers, and other people who traditionally pay royalty, and the system of Ukrainian collective management has to finally work according to international standards, has to be linked to similar organizations in Europe, so that there's a proper exchange of information and protection of authors, and the introduction of international standards, so that finally the situation in the copyright sphere corresponds to international standards. We cannot postpone these reforms any longer, because this is important for the government, this is important for the authors, because the situation when we have to provide for the support of the national cultural industry, audiovisual industries, musical industry, the system of collecting and financing royalty is one of the most efficient and quick ways of not just pay the authors, but also stimulate them to go on air, to publish and publicly use their works, and in this way get further stimuli for the creative activity. Thank you. If there are any questions, I'm still here, and I give the floor to people from creative sphere.
I am Alexandra Koltsova, Krihitka Band. I'm the author, the performer, and I am involved into organization, because the reputation of the issues around royalty were awful. We saw all the scandals, the people were losing money, they were not paying anything to authors. People abroad who are performing songs were asking where their money is for the rotation of their songs. So that was a black hole where money was going that could have been invested into the culture, and young authors could have been working efficiently. Many authors were deprived of financial support that exists in other countries that allows them to create. And many authors stopped their creative activity. The cultural territory of our country got reduced because of because of people who were stealing this small money for every author, but that's a huge market, which is several hundreds of $1 million. You can imagine that any author whose songs you love was not receiving money for recordings, for the development, and for his or her own development and development of Ukrainian culture. I have been observing all these turbulences taking place in the organizations of IP, and we were working directly with TV channels, with radio stations. They were paying us money. We were paying taxes, and that was clean money. And I think that neither the authors nor participants of the market should refuse from the direct schemes of cooperation. But now I do hope that the situation will change and the authors will see what they have earned. So we'll be following up this situation, and I will be happy to help the civilized dialogue between authors and authors and the IP organization. Good afternoon. I'm Sashko Yermolov, Gaidamaki group. I'm both the author and the performer. And Gaidamaki are playing both, performing both in Ukraine and abroad. So performing in Poland and Germany. I have become the member of their societies of IP protection, IP rights protection, and I could compare how that works there and how it works in Ukraine. The difference is huge. The organizations, associations of performers, the performers have created these organizations for themselves, and they check how the money flow. These societies can also collect the royalty from other countries because all these countries are interrelated, the countries of European Union. They are looking for authors themselves, and they inform them that you have to come and get money because so much money came to your account, and they send you the and they give the confirmation of the sources from where the money was received. Ukrainian organization, how was it working before? It wasn't looking for us for authors. You had to go there, stand in lines and try to get money from people you did not know who were in this bureaucratic apparatus. That was difficult. Before you get there, you would see several intermediaries, and they were saying that they will do it for you for certain percentage interest. And as a performer, it's easier for me to spend my time on working on some new songs, and the authors were getting money just as the fees for the concert, and the royalty would get lost. So we didn't have the performer wouldn't have a direct contract with other organizations, and the foreign organizations were not sending money to Ukraine because they said that they have no contract with the organizations that are that were to be paying royalty to us in Ukraine, and so, but there was no initiative that would get everyone together. Now we do have this initiative. Dmitro, I do trust both Dmitro Guzi and Dmitro Kostyuk. We believe that these are people who will be really working on distribution of money, and we authorize them. We as performers, we do authorize them, and we hope that our Ukrainian IP Rights Protection Society will start working as a European one. Thank you.
Hello. I am Dmitro Kostyuk. On the 15th of October, I was appointed acting head of the Ukrainian Agency for Copyright. I'd like to start. You know, it was an unexpected appointment for myself and unexpected for authors and musical industry in particular, because I think that with my appointment, the state has, for the first time, faced the authors, artists, musicians, and musical industry. The aim and tasks, why have I come there? First of all, in my contract, I have the clause I have to reform this agency and elevate it to EU standards, because, you know, bicycles have been invented and many people ride them very well, and the artist does not have to go to a cafe or a restaurant or television channel and conclude direct contracts. So at one time in the world, they invented organizations similar to our agency. In all these civilized countries, the organizations similar to ours are the basis, the foundation, the cornerstone from which the cultural development starts, because such organizations also protect the rights of people who work, of thespians. And in the musical industry, of course, because the pyramid of show business begins with authors. If there are no authors, then there's no work for recording studios, for radio stations. There's no music in cafes and restaurants. That's why, as of today, the Ukrainian authors have got their native home, the state agency, and everything is going to be different. Everything is going to be as in civilized countries. And together with authors, I hope we will quickly put the agency to order, and I hope that the authors will not watch from a side how Dmitro Kostyuk fights the system, because, you know, the authors tell me we don't know whether we shall congratulate or sympathize with you. For the moment, they should more sympathize with me, because my first week of work was rather jolly, and I'm awaiting your help so that we together change the state copyright agency. And you know, it is owned by the state, but the money there belongs to the authors. And one of the main points, you know, the first point is transparent activity, so that all the authors have access to financial activity of the agency. And the second point is bringing it, transfer its form of ownership from the state ownership to the ownership of authors. As in every country in the world, associations of musicians, authors, and all this kind of stuff. So in essence, the authors have to enter the organization and overtake it, and then see what kind of management will protect their interests, because the main task of this state copyright agency is to protect and serve the authors. There's nothing else, because authors are, you know, they are a weak side, because they are very specifically organized. They seem strange to many people. Those are special people, and there are few of them given to us by nature. But from birth to death we are living, and we are wrapped in the creativity of people who are called authors, and we often even do not notice this. So I don't know, shall we talk about the problems, why they pay or not pay? Can you laconically tell us? Oh, yes. So there are problems why the collection of money is so little. In a global sense, it's ridiculous, because, you know, if Hungary collects almost $70 million and Poland collects over $300 million, Gamma in Germany collects more than $1 billion, Ukraine collects, well, we can say collects nothing. I have lost the thread of thought. Oh yes, problems. There are positions why Because the entrepreneurs and the business, they are ready to pay in principle, but they are in two categories. First, absolute mistrust in the state copyright agency and similar organizations because they know they will pay, but they are not sure if this money goes to the authors. Oh yes, really, something will go to the authors, but there's no system of account and why and to whom. There's a number of ways not to pay. For instance, you can conduct eternal negotiations because there are almost 20 such organizations in the country, and you may be negotiating about signing the contract but never sign it. So these are the two reasons that I joined into one. So reorganization, I don't see any way to reorganize state copyright agency without the help of the president, the cabinet of ministers, and the parliament. Because the state copyright agency is part of the image of our mother Ukraine. That's why we will help our authorities to act in a way that they adopt, that they take part. Really, we do not demand much of them. The authors are there, they are self-organizing structure, and they will find out for themselves how to manage this, and the authorities should just help a bit. That's it. If there are questions, please ask them.
The first question from UCMC to you, Dmitro. First of all, we congratulate you with the appointment. We understand that combating the system is difficult. Do you have people who are your allies, who are the team, who are ready to help you? I do have a team, but I cannot bring in all these people because this the state-owned company. And I don't know how the state is functioning because you can do nothing. The enemies, the Ukraine doesn't need enemies. Everything's organized so here that it's easy not to do anything. UCMC ex-UA recently has been accused in violating the copyright. What's your attitude to such torrents? Are you planning to cooperate with them or fight against them? Just like with such huge media market as Petrivka, what will be your next steps? What will you be doing with the violators of the media tycoons of the black market? In the past, I have been the entrepreneur. I'm the entrepreneur of the media market. I have organized several infrastructural projects in the artistic sphere. I believe that you need not to you need to look at them at such companies as a business. We shouldn't be trying to break them. I do talk to the representatives of internet industry. They are ready to pay, but the laws are like prohibit it all, close all the websites. You understand that tomorrow you can close all the websites because of different reasons. I hope that in the nearest future I will show the example of how the internet industry is ready to cooperate with authors, because they are also dependent on the content of the authors. For example, why wouldn't the websites who are using the musical content would get the status of media? Let them pay these 4% of royalty, just like TV channels or radio channels, but that's from money that they are ready to pay, because the situation, the crisis in the economy are such that it's difficult. It's difficult for business to really declare some huge amounts. Business is ready because I know that because I'm from this sphere. Dmitro, briefly, we know that it's not just in American media sphere. There are some claims against XU and to other torrents, but that information was there traditionally within the framework of some PR campaign that is called List 301 in the US, and that's the campaign against our state. The Cabinet of Ministers supported the draft law on combating piracy. Today, the Secretary of Trade of Commerce of the US is arriving to Ukraine to accuse Ukraine that it doesn't want to recognize the civilized norms of respect of copyright. That is not true. Ukraine is ready, and Dmitro and our authors, they suffer from not getting any remuneration when their works are disseminated in the internet. Fighting with piracy is taking place not by authors but by some intermediary structure which is trying to introduce their rules, and these rules are drafted abroad. I believe that the piracy will be reduced. The TV channels will work more with authors and the internet industry when we have a proper infrastructure. Till this happens, we will be the hostages of the state policy which is not being developed, but the beneficiaries from abroad, irrespective whether that's Russia or other countries, they will take us to this situation. One more question. Andrei Kulikov, Public Radio, Pororoku program. And the question is to Sasha and Alexander. How bringing it all to order will help increase the Ukrainian content, because now probably you will have to pay to foreign performers, and this can take them out of our market. And the question to the head of agency, what's the relations with the Ministry of Culture? And the question to the head of public council, you're talking about internet and TV, and where's the radio? First of all, to your previous question, we cooperated with XUA that you mentioned, and it brought us more money than before, because they put our single and they put a button, pay as much as you can. It's easier sometimes to work with pirates than with pirate type of a state. As to how the situation will change, we are observing. We would like money to come back to air. We need new instruments, new technologies, to be able to pay for light, for sound, so that our product is of the same wonderful quality as the works of our foreign colleagues. How to lobby our work on the radio. I believe the situation improves, because now radio stations are calling me and they're asking about when will your new single come out, and we hope that when the state opens the flow for financing, everything will become better. Maybe we will start exporting Ukrainian musical products, because we are all looking at Sweden. They are the biggest exporter of the music. I support Sasha. That is about increase of the Ukrainian content in the air. It's probably more the question to the supervisory board, the public council. The listen is not progressive, but the format, I don't know who invented that. Many people who work on TV, on radio stations, they know that what they play, and I am asking them, why are you doing that? As soon as we start playing something Ukrainian, then immediately the listener, viewer will switch to a different channel. They are all sort of intelligent people. They work like that, and we need to break this vicious circle, because otherwise the copyright society is one thing, and the policy of FM radio stations and TV stations channels is different thing. There should be some pressure exercised on them. They will not change themselves. And how do you cooperate with the Ministry of Culture? I didn't have any contacts with the Ministry of Culture. We had quite an interesting week last week. All the law enforcers visited me. I have no relations with the Ministry of Culture, but one advisor to the Minister of Culture is who we talked to. We were talking about radio station. There's quite an interesting story there. We need to promote Ukrainian content, young groups, not just young groups. And I believe that the Ministry of Culture should also become the assistant in that. In the air, in radio, and on TV, there should be more Ukrainian content. But this is quite an situation, quite difficult, because there was no motivation, because the guys just take some money from the neighbors and it starts, and then Germany starts playing. And then GEMA pays them money, they pay their debts, and then they again start to invest into the industry. We need money, because now the money is dispersed. And even those 20 organizations, which are similar organizations, they cannot collect, because the entrepreneurs look at that and they see that there are some people who have nothing to do with the industry. They say, pay money to us. We have very little time, so Dmitro, thank you. Your remark about radio. And summing it up, even though the radio is something that is has been in existence longer than anything else, but the radio doesn't differ from internet or TV. That is probably the most popular way to make something popular. Unfortunately, it did not give any support to young performers. There's a big question of trust to the system, but mistrust started from large radio stations who were imposing their pulls. Like Ukrainian music, Sashko and Sasha, they know about that situation. They were being played, but the money wasn't paid because other people were controlling financial flows. So we will return that control. It will make it transparent. There should be this direct form of cooperation in the market, but when there is more trust in the system, then financing will come to a different level. Thank you. The next briefing will take place in 1 or 2 minutes.